Glen Suitor joins us for press coverage. Now, Glenn, what do you remember? I don't know if you caught both of those, but let's start first. 1986, Space Shuttle Challenger on this day. Do you remember where you were?
1986, I would have been in rehab, as far as not alcohol rehab.
Whoa.
Although I probably could have used it. No, because it was the off season, so I was rehabbing all my injuries from the season in '86, getting ready to get back to training. I would have probably been in North Vancouver at that time. I don't remember specifically. I do remember how I felt, though. I just, when you start to get comfortable with all this new technology and everything, and then something like that happens, and you think, well, whoa, they haven't got it all figured out yet, and lives can be in danger. So I do remember sort of having that uneasy feeling and trying to sort of, in the wrong way, and I shouldn't have done this. I do it all the time. Is bring in the stuff that you normally go, like flying in airplanes and things like that. And I'm going, don't relate it all to that accident. And then the song one, I remember that song big time. Like I remember the song. I remember being impressed with all the people that were involved in it and how much money they raised. But you mentioned, to be up at 8:00 in the morning in a jam session. Been there, done that.
Till 8 in the morning.
Been there, done that on campfire sing-alongs.
Yeah. No, like you would have think. Okay, so they were, what was it, the Grammys or whatever the award show was the night before? Was it the Grammys, Harry? Yeah. And then they come over to the studio at 10:00. And here's one of the quotes. It'll make you guys laugh. I was reading up. It was Stevie Wonder. Let me find it here.
Yeah, the names were unreal.
Stevie said, we're going to try and, where is it? We're going to get this. Stevie Wonder also greeted them all there, told each artist that if they didn't get the song in one take, he and the only other blind man there, Ray Charles, would drive them home. So Stevie starts the night with a joke, right? Breaks the ice. 10 p.m. Maybe we're out of here by midnight. No, they grinded till 8 a.m. Like, again, you could see in the documentary they're drinking. there would have been a lot of skiing going on. They would have been staying up till all hours. So there, yeah. Let's back on memory lane a little bit there on this day in history. Okay, Glenn, we're going to talk CFL here. I don't know if you saw this one that came down today. The Riders signing running back Trent Penix. Penix signed with Indianapolis as an undrafted free agent in 2024 after the NFL draft. He attended training camp with the team. Then he rejoined the Colts back in October, spending the remainder of the season on the practice roster. Now, the thing that jumped out to me, when he played in college, he played running back and he played tight end because he is 6'2", 234.
Yeah.
He's a big frame. And so Coulson did some work. Armstead, 5'11", 220. AJ's 5'8", 208. Albert Awachi, 6'3", 225. So a big body there. Bertrand Houdon was 6 foot 220. And Hickson, obviously, a littler guy, 5'8", 220. But that's a good size back, right? Bring him in, see what you got there, Glenn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're going to hear lots of names that have great college resumes and things like that, and he's one of them. And, what I like about that signing and that player is, yes, his size, for sure. I mean, you can use him in a lot of different ways, but also if he was playing tight end, that means he's running routes. And if he's running routes, he's running the corners, he's running the dig routes, he's running routes that are not just check downs for running backs out of the backfield. These are actual routes that receivers run. So if he is comfortable doing that, it could be a real nice fit. And the guy that comes to mind when you think about his size and a guy that could run a corner route, like from a tight end spot, the guy that comes to mind to me is Ray Elgard. Big, huge guy that could slap around DBs and get them out of the way and run his route. He didn't run by anybody, but he didn't have to because he was so big and strong. So, yeah, let's see. This is an exciting time of year. Free agency's coming up. We're going to talk about that, I know. But also, some of the off-season signings, and if you dig deep into some of these guys that you see signed, you're going to see great college resumes for sure, and some NFL resumes as well.
Well, yeah. So back to Penix is when you talk about that blocking, right? If you played tight end in a college football where it doesn't matter where, like you know how to block. Like you're blocking ends, linebackers, corners coming, zipping by you, right? So I like that point. Then yesterday you mentioned it. The Riders signed Super Bowl and Grey Cup winning defensive lineman Shane Ray, who's got CFL experience and experience with Mace.
Yeah, and so he would know exactly what he's getting as far as commitment is concerned, because that's one of the questions you have with off-season signings of Americans that haven't been here before. You wonder, when they get here, are they going to be all in? Are they going to put all their chips in the middle of the table and treat it like they would if it was an NFL tryout? So because although you would think it's automatic that they would, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes they come up thinking they'll dominate, figuring out that they won't quickly, and then be behind because of that sort of assumption, or that they come in and they think they don't have to give it all to be on the roster and to be a great player, because it's not the NFL. And so you got to see what you get as soon as they get here. You don't know that until they're here. So that's why guys that have not played, or guys like Ray who have played, are safer signings for guys like Coach Mace.
That kind of leads into my question. Is it a better fit and a better chance of him sticking because he's been in the league before, been in the NFL twice? Like, he kind of knows the deal at this point.
Yeah, no question. He's a pro, so he knows how to take care of himself, how to be ready mentally. At that level, at the pro level, both sides of the border, it's shoulders up that is most important. Are you committed mentally? Are you going to be all in to make sure you know what your assignments are? All those things. So he'll be good in all of that. But he also knows, as a D lineman, the yard off and how you attack that differently, what the angles look like. So his preparation going into camp is way ahead of any American D lineman that has not been up here before. And then he has to figure out, oh, this is different. This is completely different because I'm a yard off. I can come at a different angle. A lot of different moves that are pass rush moves that are more effective here than they would be down south because of it, and vice versa. So, it's a fun time. It's a fun time of year when you see some of these young guys coming in.
What's your take on the tampering window?
Yeah, I like it. I'm fine with it. I really am. Like in fact, I think you need to have a short window where you have a chance as a team to sign your players back. So guys that are going to become free agents in February.
I just think it sounds like badass, right? Tampering. Yeah. The CFL's got this tampering window. It's like guys are meeting in back alleys in trench coats or something.
I guess the name is kind of, it sort of points to that direction. But I like it. I mean, I think you actually should tighten up the window where teams can sign their own guys back. So the Grey Cup is done mid-November, and you have to account for holidays because we have to respect Christmas and New Year's holidays and things like that. But before and after that, let's say, second week in January max, that's the window where you can exclusively as a team talk to your potential free agents and see if you want to re-sign them. And then after that, we should just let them go. And most people think that the legal tampering is only good for the players. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's as good for the teams as it is for the players, because they can make calls. And even though you might, through a third person or a friend of a friend of a friend, know that a free agent in Ottawa is potentially looking at Saskatchewan as a landing point, you may know that through a couple of people, but you're not sure until you actually talk to the guy. And that's where that tampering window opens up so you can do it. And a team, if they could do that even 2 weeks earlier, I say tighten it up. But I'm all for it. And now that you mention it, Barney, The name is pretty good.
It is. It is. Ooh, those CFL guys do some crazy things up there, man. This tampering window. It's like a bunch of, is it illegal? Illegal stuff's going on. No, but hey, what's going on in Winnipeg?
Yeah. Well, it's such a balancing act. I mean, the greatest coaches in the league's history know that better than anybody. I mean, Wally Buono in Vancouver used to do it 2 years before a guy's expiration date and make the move then. In fact, he raised a lot of eyebrows. Guys like G. Roy Simon and Barron Simpson as a linebacker that he got rid of when they were playing great, and you went, whoa, that's way too early. And yet, those guys had a couple more years where they were good, but not the G-Roy that we saw when he was in his prime. So, I think there's a balancing act to be had here. Winnipeg has got to rebuild some guys. They're old, and a lot of their starting guys, I say old, like getting up there into the 30s. And Big Hill is so intriguing to me. You guys mentioned leadership. I'm not sure if he would be okay with a contract that didn't make him an every down player because of his injuries and some of the things that he's gone through and his age. He's 36. I'm not sure that Adam is an every down player now. And because he is such a strong character to him, is he going to be okay with that? And so you have to find that out first. But boy, he'd be intriguing. Like Saskatchewan gets a guy that is so good in the room, such a great leader, by example, versatile, can play when he's healthy, can play free safety and linebacker as good as any free safety and linebacker in recent memory. And that's saying something because you can rotate those guys. And he knows the caramel secret. Like the Bombers have been to the show 5 years in a row, and yet they haven't won them all, but he knows how they got there. He knows how they did it. I'll tell you guys a quick story. In 1987, Nick Hebler came into our locker room. Nick Hebler was a BC Lion defensive lineman, and Hebler had won the Grey Cup in 85 in Vancouver. So he comes into our locker room, and by then his playing days were basically behind him, and I have tremendous respect for him. I'm not disparaging him. He wasn't putting up big numbers on the stat sheet any longer. But what he did in our locker room was to basically tell every player by example that what we're doing is the right path to become a championship team. It was validating our process. And Hebler was a strong leader to do that. He stepped in, he just won the cup, and he says, guys, all the talent's here. You guys are practicing and preparing the way you should be. This is a championship caliber team. And 2 years later, we got there. So, I think that's what an Adam Bighill can do for your team, as long as he's okay with possibly not being an every down player.
I think you got to come to that realization at some point in your career and in your life.
Who has that conversation with him? Glenn, surely you've played with guys that they were known for doing one thing, and when they can't do that one thing anymore, but they still are a valuable contributor in other ways, how do you get them to shift their mindset to be, look, you're not a everyday player anymore, but you still are a valuable resource? Like, that's a pretty bitter pill to swallow for somebody who's been one thing for so long.
Yeah, there's no question. Now, Adam has said that he wants to play and continue to play. And to answer your question, that's a Corey Mace discussion. If we're talking riders that maybe want to pick up the phone and call him, that's a very open and honest Corey Mace discussion. Listen, you might not be an every game player. We might have you in a reserve situation as a not dressed player for a game or two, and then we'll need to insert you, and you might play 4 or 5 in a row, whatever. So it's going to be that sort of situation. Open, honest, transparent. Adam Bighill will be fine with that as far as the communication, and then he's got to make the call. He's got to make the decision if he's okay with it or not.
There's only one way to do it. You get Kramer to go in and do it like you did with Raquel Welch. Take away her Tony Award. You just get.
We'll give you all the coffee you can drink, and I'll take it.
She didn't swing her arms. They had to let her go. Let's go to the NFL here.
Yeah.
And okay, where's your allegiance lie in the NFL? Who's your team? You got to have a team. Who's your team? Seattle?
No, it was the Titans when my kid was down there in Nashville. So Tennessee was, I go to a bunch of those games, but I don't really have a favorite team.
Do you have more Chiefs fatigue and maybe, enough's enough for the Chiefs, or back when the Patriots were winning? Which, if you had to say one or the other?
Well, I like both because I
Glenn,
love
come on.
No, I love excellence. I love this discussion. What is fascinating to me is this conspiracy talk, and the refs are out to get every team playing the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes gets so much more leeway, and they don't throw penalty flags for taunting from Kelsey, and and any team that plays against him never gets the right spot or a penalty call at the wrong time, or doesn't get the penalty call that the Chiefs deserve. All of those things, the incompletion, the short yardage play by Josh Allen, which, by the way, just a pet peeve of mine. That, what do they call it? The tush push or the pushy tush or whatever? I don't.
Tush push.
Keep going with what you think it's called. This is funny.
We can get in big trouble here, and you know it. Part of beating a defense is, and this is really simplifying, but part of beating a defense is to bring a little bit of doubt in their minds that you might be doing something else, that they can't just tee up and be in one attack mode because you may be fooling them, like a double move, or you're going on a different count in your cadence, or they think it's going to be quarterback sneak because it's short yardage, and you don't do that. Like, if you go into that formation, and the NFL and CFL both do it, and I hate it in both leagues, you go into that formation, everyone on defense knows there's only one option. It's quarterback sneak. That's it. It's one option, and it's our strength against your strength, pushing against pushing, and that's it. Winner take all. I would keep them spread out. I've said it many times. And then let Josh Allen, when you have to go and cover backs out of the backfield, leave a tailback behind him too. So the linebacker waits a split second. Are they giving it to the tailback or not? Those split seconds make the difference. So I'm loving the conspiracy theories on all of this, that fans think that the fix is in, that they want Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl and all this stuff. I don't believe in any of that. And Buffalo has no one to blame but themselves. They needed a yard, they didn't get it. Bottom line.
Well, it doesn't even come down to that. I said it yesterday. I went off. Harry, you and I will talk about it. I just think their coaching, there was a glaring omission on or discrepancy in coaches. What Kansas City did to what Buffalo did. It's like Spags is going to blitz you there, probably. Is he not? At some point when it matters, and you don't have a hot, like we talked to Derry, you don't have a hot route, you don't have a check down, you don't have anything. It's like, oh, hey, shoot, Josh, just go back and do something. Just throw it. Like, what do you, that was it. And then the tush push thing, I personally think when you have that much force, and how Philadelphia does it, how can that be stopped if you do it correctly? Like, put the guy back and everybody push him.
Yeah, it's all about leverage and low man wins. So the defense is trying to get under the pads of the offensive line. They're trying to anticipate the snap count and go, especially in the NFL where you don't have a yard off the ball, to get low leverage. You're almost crawling, and then drive that way, and your linebackers come up over the top. But the commitment, there is no doubt in any one of the defenders in that formation as to what's going to happen. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have a back in a split back situation, like a back to your left, and there's a chance, like I wouldn't do it. I'd still go quarterback sneak like Josh Allen did, but there's the opportunity to give it to him, the back. Then the defense, that linebacker can't time up a jump over the top. He can't. He's got to hang in there a second and see if you're going to hand it off or not. And then you take it and run the sneak. You're still going to get D tackles that are pinching, but that's where you get your push. You still see a seam, and you can slide into the next hole. I just think it's way too obvious to everybody that that's what's happening. And now you're saying to your O-line, you know, and the reason that coaches do it is A, they have the snap count as an advantage, and B, ego. Because they walk into their meeting rooms on offense and say, there is no way that team should stop us when we got a yard or less to go. There's no way. Because you guys should be able to push them and should be able to win that battle. And everyone says, yes, let's do it. And away they go. And then they get stopped. You know, even though I think the spot was a bad one.
Wow.
Agreed.
Harry. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. They both refs were like a foot and a half off each. That was a bad look. That wasn't a great. What happened to the old school? I know Josh Allen tried to do it because he's so bloody tall. It's just go over the top. And I know you got to get the ball. You got to go and then you got to tuck it back quick. But like, remember back in like the 80s and 90s, didn't it seem like guys would just go over top of the line, right, and then land right on that hard AstroTurf?
Yeah, I think the only concern for them is the fact that ball security, when you're diving, the helmet could, you know, there's more chance that the helmet could actually, you know, knock the ball out. So I think that's the little bit of concern there. But again, more of a spread look with receivers out there. And one time late in the regular season in short yardage, throw it to one of those guys. Throw it to them. Even if you don't get it, you have now set and planted a seed that sometime in the playoff, you might do that again. So everybody has to take care of their first responsibility on defense. And you can run a sneak off tackle or around the corner, around the edge, or right behind your center, because then it's one-on-one, not 11 on 11 in that formation. Yeah. I just can't believe that offenses still all do that. And they do it in both leagues. They call it like wedge up here or short yardage or elephants or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So who do you I guess we got a week to talk about who we like in the game and all that.
What's the early line? What's the early line in the game? Do you know?
Well, it was yesterday was 1.5 for Taylor's boys. What is it today? Super Bowl. Yeah, 1.5. Eagles are plus 106.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. We like I said, we got a lot of time to talk about it. We're already 20 minutes to the hour here, Glenn.
Yeah, see? and I've got a list of possible free agents that I think the Riders would be interested in. We could wait till Thursday to talk about
Yes. Let's do that.
It's players that unless they sign in that period in the next couple of days, it's players that you might not have expected. I think my list is going to be different than a lot of guys' lists.
Oh, you'll be with Maz on Thursday. There's a tease for you, everybody, to tune in on Thursday with Suits. All right, have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
See you later. Glen Suitor.